How you doing, guys? I'm back with another collection update video. I have three titles I'm going to talk to you about today, so I'm just going to begin. Alright, so first up, we have The Hazing. Now, I feel this film is really inspired by Evil Dead 2 and the Night of the Demons movies. And it's about a bunch of kids that are trying to join a sorority and a fraternity. And the idea is they're supposed to run around town stealing items for a scavenger hunt. But at the end of the night, they're supposed to spend the night at a haunted mansion. But one of the teams decides that they're going to do a shortcut on the scavenger hunt thing by stealing this ancient book that this professor has. And the professors were played by Brad Dourif. So I guess like when they're scavenger hunting, I guess all these things are worth points, but there's a book be worth more than all the things that they're stealing worth together. So they decide to break into his place to steal the book, but it turns out that he's evil, and he's been sacrificing students because he's trying to do some spell in the book. And they end up fighting with him, and he ends up getting really hurt, and they steal the book and decide to continue on with their hazing by spending the night in the mansion anyways. But somehow his spirit finds them at the mansion, and he tricks one of the kids into reading one of the spells from the book, and then they get trapped in the house. And then somehow he's able to possess them one at a time, and they're getting all picked off and stuff. This film is a lot of fun, even though it's on the cheesy side. It also stars Tiffany Shepis, and she's like a scream queen from the 2000s. The last thing I remember seeing her in was The Nightmare Man. The best gag in this movie is when a guy has to bite his own tongue off because it becomes possessed. And that was a lot of fun. That was also the bloodiest scene in the movie. I'd recommend this one, especially if you can get it for fairly cheap. It's a fun movie. All right. Next up, we have Mum and Dad. This is a British horror movie. It's from 2008, and basically this film is about a young girl who's out on her own, and she gets this job working at the airport, and she befriends one of the girls pretty much on her first day while she's working. And this girl tricks her into coming over to her house to spend the night. And it turns out that her family is batshit crazy. So she gets trapped there for I think months. And she gets tortured and stuff. This movie is really, really messed up. It kind of reminded me of The Loved Ones, but this movie is a much nastier film than that movie. It also reminded me of House of a Thousand Corpses, but I think this is a much better film than that, because that film was trying too hard to be hip, and this one is just down and dirty and nasty. I was watching some of the special features, and they were really inspired by Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and they're trying to go with that kind of feel. But I guess all these films were inspired by Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I recommend this one for a watch. It's really gritty and nasty. And I was surprised that something like this would come out of Britain, because usually their films aren't like this. But this is a really nasty movie. Okay, last up, we have Naked Fear. Now this film reminded me of Wolf Creek. And basically it's about this hunter who has gotten tired of hunting animals, and he decided he's going to hunt people. So what he does is he finds prostitutes, he drugs them, he strips them down naked, and he hunts them out in the desert, out in New Mexico. Now, this movie has a lot of plot in the first 30 minutes. There's a storyline with this young girl who gets tricked into working at a strip bar as a stripper by this guy. And what they're doing at the strip club is really it's got to be highly illegal. What they're doing is they're tricking people to come down there to work under the guise that they'd be doing something like in promotions, force them to be a stripper, and they take their ID and stuff away and tell them if they have to work back their money so they can, if they want to leave. And then they tell them, and they don't pay them very much money to begin with, and they tell them when they ask for more money, tell them to go into prostitution. And that's where the subplot with the serial killer comes in. There's also another plot with this sheriff's deputy who's been disgraced. I guess he was working in a bigger town, but the mayor was an alcoholic, and he kept killing people when he was driving his car, and he was trying to get him arrested, and he got run out of town. And there's that subplot, him and his wife. And then you got Joe Mantegna's character, who's actually the sheriff in the town. And I thought he was going to be the hero, but his character's just a dick. He really made me frustrated, his character in this. I thought he'd be the one to save the day at the end, but he doesn't. Um, One of the things about this film is it's a really, really cheap-looking movie. The very first scene in the movie, where you see what the serial killer is doing, is actually very well shot. And I kind of wish that they'd pay attention to the dailies when they were making this movie, where they could have really easily corrected it, because none of the scenes in the town really work that well. They're really, really cheesy. Um, the one thing, too, at first I was disappointed in the look of the killer, because he didn't really look menacing at all. But it makes perfect sense, because if this guy is doing what he's doing, he's got to look harmless. And the guy they got to be the killer is harmless. The film kind of starts off as a mystery at first, but there's only really one red herring, and he pretty much is the killer. So you'll know, and they pretty much show you within the first half hour who the killer is. Like at the one point, it could be anybody. I thought Joe Mantegna was the killer at first, but no, they tell you 30 minutes in. There's a lot of nudity in this movie, especially with the main girl when she's first being hunted. But they shoot it really respectfully. It's not overly gratuitous or anything like that. I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel to this movie, but I don't think they're going to make one. It's been 7 years now, and if they were to make a sequel, it'd actually be a much different movie than the first film. That's why I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel. And they could actually tie in to the first film, because there's enough character strands and stuff that were left hanging in this film that they could have resolved in a second movie. I recommend this one for a rental. Like, the way it's shot would probably annoy a lot of people. Like, the first time I started watching, I just turned it off. I just couldn't get through that first initial 5 minutes after the opening shot. But then I sat down and powered through it. Alright guys, that's my update. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all later.